Hi. I just
Hi.
everyone got haircuts and y'all look really fresh.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm liking the new looks.
Your hair looks dope as well. So
Thank
Yeah,
you.
it does.
yeah, really
The
dope.
dopest we can get during quarantine. So like I'm going with it.
Yes, love it.
So we chatted a little over a year ago over at Lollapalooza, which now feels kind of like a lifetime ago.
No, it totally does.
Crazy.
And I know you guys participate in the virtual Lolla, so a little bit different, but how have you guys been staying like sane and healthy during quarantine? Like what have you guys been doing?
Oh my gosh. We've been cooking a lot. We've been writing for our album a lot. We've just been kind of, trying to get outdoors. We have a good backyard situation that we've been hanging out in, and I think just trying to.
Yeah, we also we bought a house, and Max has a house in DC, so that has been stressful, but also very kind of lot time consuming, moving everything in, getting our studio set up. So yeah, we've been doing okay, I'd say. We've been staying pretty sane, and the silver lining is we've been able to pretty much finish our album now. We're feeling really good about it. So yeah.
That's awesome. And congratulations on moving. Did you have a studio space where you were before, or is that like a new addition?
Well, the studio space before was basically our living room. So that's where we recorded Trampoline in the rental home that we were all living in a few years ago in Silver Spring. And we pretty much just recorded that song in our living room with we had some keyboards on the wall, but it was very DIY. So now we've got like a designated studio room, and it's like a little nicer, but it's still pretty DIY. It's nothing insane. So
yeah.
At least having that space to be utilizing now and making music. And that's something I definitely want to ask you guys about is, I was going to ask if you were working on music. So, and I was going to ask if there was a new album coming on the way. So given that you planted those seeds, like what can you tell us about it?
Well, basically we had a group of songs before this whole quarantine situation, and we kind of took a deep listen and realized that, we wanted to change it up a bit. So most of the songs we've written for this album, we wrote during these crazy months. So it definitely reflects emotionally and, mentally what we were feeling. So these songs really hit home for us, and we're super excited to release them. And we're, gearing up for a bunch of stuff, and we're just really excited.
Yeah. I was just going to add on to that. We also are having a string section, a 13-piece string section on like a lot of the songs too. So that's always something we've really wanted to do. And we actually have our first session. And because of all these crazy times and the pandemic, we're doing a virtual recording session with a string section in Macedonia, which is kind of insane, but they've got a big studio. They'll be able to social distance with masks and things, but there's no studios in LA or New York really that are able to get players together. So it's just crazy how the pandemic is kind of changing how, we're making music. And
Gotta get a little creative.
You gotta get creative. So it's kind of interesting.
When do you think it'll come out, like later this year or?
Probably later this year.
Yeah.
Early next year.
We've got the full album is going to come out next year, but we're going to release a few singles before January for sure.
Yeah.
So you guys are all in DC, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in that general area. Yeah.
Yeah, we're Northern Virginia. Max is like DC proper.
And I saw on your guys' social media you shared a little bit about attending the marches, the protests back in June in DC.
Yeah.
And I was sort of curious, like, why it was important to you to like march with the Black Lives Matter protests, and then beyond that, like looking at this year, like what you've learned about like how to be a better ally and like how to be an ally to the Black community.
Well, it was important for all of us. I moved right into DC. I'm like 5 blocks from the Capitol, so I'm like right in the thick of everything. So, it feels like super immediate for me. And then of course, Chelsea and Spencer were there as well to protest. I think it's just important to listen and, just there's all these kind of sub movements within the Black Lives Matter movement that are really important. Black trans lives matter, I think, is super important. And just like hearing these different perspectives, and Black disabled lives matter within the movement too, where like one of the main chants was say his name George Floyd, or say her name Breonna Taylor, and they were advocating for deaf Black, that community. So they were saying sign her name, sign his name. So it's cool how I think it's important that all these communities within Black lives their voices are being elevated, and I think that's important. So that's one thing I feel like we've learned is just kind of trying to listen to these groups within the movement and just taking them seriously and giving them credit. So. And
what was it like being there, like in the march?
Oh my God, it was crazy. We were walking to the White House, because that's where we were told it was going to start. But when it was crazy, because we were looking for everybody, and then we just turned a corner and there was just a huge, mass of people just walking down, and it felt super powerful. And just, we were right up on the Capitol steps, and it was just amazing to see, just like being right there, like on the White House gate. And it was definitely scary, but it was really empowering. And yeah, it was just powerful, because we've been to protests before, like the Women's March, but this one felt so much more immediate. Just there was so much more emotion behind it, I feel like, than any other protests that we've been in DC.
Especially during a pandemic, I feel like it's really interesting to see how many people come out, if not more than usual,
Yeah. And everyone was really, everyone was very much respecting the wearing the mask thing. That was very respected, which I was kind of worried about, but it was there weren't really that many upticks in COVID in DC after these marches, because I feel like people were being very responsible, which I thought was pretty amazing. So, and it went on night after night too. So it just a lot of the chants were "see you tomorrow," and it was going on and on for weeks, which was really pretty amazing. So,
thank you. Thanks for sharing that. Can you talk a little bit about the message behind your song "Melt" and sort of how you feel that fits into the upheaval of 2020?
Yeah, we originally wrote that song because I had been in a situation where I was younger and kind of quickly was scooped up into the major label situation. I was kind of roped in very excitedly into a situation that ended up being just not great. I was struggling to find my identity as a musician, and really shy. And so basically that song is just about me understanding and kind of going through those trials to figure out that, I want to be out of these chains. I want to get out of this. I think it honestly could be applied to many people that feel trapped or, held down in any sort of situation.
I always love that when a song comes from a specific experience, but it really has that sort of universal principle to it, and sort of that uplifting power too, that you're on the other side of that story.
Right. Yeah.
And going back to 2019, Steve Aoki released a song with you and Sting, which is pretty epic, 2 in a Million. What was it like working with those two, and how did that collaboration come about?
Well, Chelsea loves Sting, so I can see how
I love Sting. Oh my God. I heard Sting and I was just like, yes, I don't even need to hear the song. We are singing a song with Sting. Yeah, I'm a huge Police fan. I love the 80s. So.
But the way it came about was Steve Aoki was a fan of ours, and he reached out and said he'd love for us to feature on a song. So we were kind of listening to some demos and trying to figure out which one made sense. And then he said, hey, actually, hold on. I got a song with Sting. And that's when Chelsea was like, we're doing this right away.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
Song with Sting?
Yeah.
I was like, are you kidding me? Of course. And we did a music video with him, and he was just as cool as I could have ever pictured. just really great. And so we had so much fun making that
We
song.
did have
for sure.
one unfortunate thing happen with Sting where he had broken his arm, I guess, right before we were going to shoot this video. So he actually had his arm in a sling underneath his leather jacket. So if you rewatch the video, he's like really just moving his right arm. His left is pretty tame. So after the video shoot was finished, we're so excited, and Max and I are very like touchy-feely, usually not now with COVID, but we're usually very touchy-feely, and we just went up to Sting and we're like, Sting, you did such a good job. We're like, it's so cool to meet you. And Max comes in right behind me. He's like, that was awesome.
Oh God.
And we won't repeat what he said, but let's just say he was a little upset for a second. He was kind of messing with us, but he's like, hey, quit hitting my hurt shoulder, you something. And we're like, oh,
it was like, sorry,
it
was funny. I was like, you just hit Sting.
Yeah.
In the hurt arm.
Yeah.
No, it was so great. He was such a great guy. Just really, really nice. And Steve Aoki as well. He came to DC probably like 6 months ago, right before all this. And he played at the Echo Stage in DC, and we came up for the song, and it was just so much fun. It was just like a really great energy. So both incredible people.
That's a great story. And cool that other than smacking him in the arm, that it was a good experience.
Yeah, it was great.
Like celeb crush, like meeting experience.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
He was very, very handsome in person.
Yes,
as well.
he was. Yeah.
He's a handsome guy.
2019 also brought some Trampoline remixes, including the big one with ZAYN. How do you feel like his version sort of brought new life to Trampoline?
We were in Japan, and last summer, and we kind of were floating around this idea that we wanted to get a feature on Trampoline, because Trampoline had been doing great on radio and maybe like breathe some new life into it. So we were kind of toying around with some features, and we threw out ZAYN, honestly as a joke, because I was like, we'll never get ZAYN ever, even though like Pillow Talk is one of my jams. But so we kind of threw it out, and our team reached out to his team, and we were in LA the next week, and we looked in our email, and he had sent over an entire file of all these vocals, and we were like,
yeah,
it was just such a surprise to us, and like a really, really pleasant surprise. And the vocals were so great. It just, the tone was just really, really awesome. So the guys produced out his vocals and figured out where they should lay in the track. And honestly, I think like it really gave us a whole new fan base, because that ZAYN fan base is just totally crazy for ZAYN. So I think we got a lot of new, really cool fans. So it was a really interesting experience.
These guys wake up a little earlier than I do, but I heard like this really beautiful, like buttery male vocal singing Trampoline a cappella coming from my living room. And I'm like, what, like through the wall, I'm like, who the heck, what's going on? And Spencer was already had all the files out, and it was fun because, you know, like with the traditional kind of remix, usually we'll have just like the verse, and then ZAYN would have just sang the second verse, and maybe they sang on the chorus together. But after hearing his vocals, Spencer and I were like, how are we going to get ZAYN like, you know, more like involved in this track? And so it's not just so back and forth. So we were able to kind of put together that arrangement.
We were so excited. We literally just pulled an all-nighter because we wanted to get it back to Spotify and to radio and everything. And we just thought it was so cool. So yeah, it was just a great experience. We haven't met him yet, which is crazy. We really want to meet him. I don't know, ZAYN, if you're watching, we want to hang out, but we'll see.
Okay, so we already have your New Year's plans. You're gonna ZAYN, if it's safe, figure it out.
Yes.
But speaking of 2019 and of these tracks, and also obviously you released the Melt Deluxe album, and tours, festivals, like it was a really big year for SHAED. What did 2019 feel like for you guys?
Like a blink. It was so much fun. But we probably were home collectively for 2 weeks, you know, in 2019. So, so much fun, traveled to so many places we've never been, went to Japan, went to Mexico, just playing these festivals that we've been dreaming about for years. So it was an incredible year. So the silver lining of all this is we were about to leave for another year very similar, you know, in 2020. And just finally getting a second, even though we love to travel, we love tour, we love festivals, but just getting a second for us all to be in one space for more than 10 days and for us to really work on songs and an album has been so crucial and really, really nice. So that's been the silver lining. That's the only way we're staying sane, is just being like, there's a reason we're here and home, you know.
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
What's up, y'all? This is B.O.B.
This is G-Eazy.
I'm Mo. This is Julia Michaels.
This is Logic. Make sure you subscribe to the Recording Academy channel. Flex.